Hi, and welcome to Ramta's Masterclass. My name is Maya Zebley, and I am a board-certified music therapist and assistant professor of practice at the University of the Pacific at the San Francisco campus. Today I will introduce you to the topic of songwriting as a therapeutic approach. In his book, Defining Music Therapy, Brusha mentions four types of music experiences that falls under methods: improvisational methods, recreative methods, compositional methods, and receptive methods. Songwriting falls under compositional methods. This is when the client, with the guidance of the therapist, composes an original song which includes the creation of melody, lyrics, and eventually be incorporated into a rhythmic pattern and accompanied by a chord progression. Songwriting activity addressed in a clinical setting is an active music experience. This is when the client is actively engaged in the music-making process and requires the use of cognitive, emotional, and interpersonal skills. It is important to mention that even if the client is nonverbal or the client was diagnosed with developmental disability, for example, songwriting activity would still be appropriate if it serves the client's clinical goal and objective. As I mentioned before, songwriting is an active music therapy experience. And Brusha mentioned several aims or purposes that songwriting serves in a clinical setting. Therapeutic songwriting aims may include to develop organizational and planning abilities. So according to Henson, Abramate, and Colwell, in a medical setting working with cancer patients, organizational and planning abilities relate to problem-focused coping strategies. Coping with the diagnosis, coping with the change in life due to the diagnosis, and coping with treatment. Organizational and planning abilities require the patient's active participation in decision-making and planning relating to the treatment and diagnosis. So how it relates to songwriting. So when we as therapists engage a client into a songwriting activity through the process of planning and organizing the song's form, verse, chorus, bridge, for example, and or chord progression or the style of the songs or the way we're going to perform the song, these skills can be later transferred into increasing the mental state required to cope with the diagnosis through planning the course of treatment. The second aim, develop skills in creative problem solving. This is when the client exercises the solution-finding skills while going through challenging times. And to do so, we as the therapists should provide the client with the option to express their likes and or dislikes relating to the choice of melody, harmony, lyrics, and so forth. And we should guide the client through the process of exploring alternative musical solutions so that eventually the song would turn out to be aesthetically pleasing for them. Another aim Brusha mentioned in relation to songwriting is to develop the ability to document and communicate inner experiences. Through the process of several music therapy sessions, the client goes through transformation. And by writing a song, let's say at the beginning phases of treatment, and later on during the termination phase, listening to and reflecting back on that song, the client then gained perspective to who they were in relation to where they are at that present moment. Let's move forward. The purpose of songwriting is to promote the exploration of therapeutic themes through lyrics. In a clinical songwriting session, the theme is the subject of the song. It is also the anchor or the framework. Themes are the client's issues, thoughts, and emotions they experience in the here and now. During the session, the therapist should be attentive to the client's expressions, and it is the responsibility of the therapist to recognize in that present moment any reoccurring words, phrases, concerns, expressions of feelings or thoughts that arise. These then become the theme and can be developed into the lyrics, which I'll explain later. The last point I want to mention is the songwriting assists with developing the ability to integrate and synthesize parts into wholes. Wholeness means harmony of all parts, or as Bruchab states, when a client experience an emotional or physical challenge, it may be difficult for them to put the parts of themselves and their world together into harmonious whole. So during songwriting experience, the therapist assists the client with integrating the lyrics, the chords, the chord progression, and melody into a whole song, which will eventually lead to a final product. And that product would represent the client true self. The fundamentals of songwriting are the lyrics, melody, and harmony. In a clinical setting, lyrics do not need to rhyme. It is the choice of the client if they want the lyrics to rhyme or not, or if they want a certain phrasing or not. Melody, we're not going to get into it right now, but remind ourselves that melody is built on a motive, those 3 to 6 notes that develop in a certain way and then turns into the melody of the song. And of course, the harmony, the chord progression, I would recommend each one of you to have 4 or 5 go-to chord progression that you can work with during the session. I also want to mention the form of the song. The song includes a verse. Sometimes there is a refrain in the verse. The verse is a storytelling part of the song. Sometimes there is also a pre-chorus, which leads to the chorus, brings another color to the song. There is the chorus, there is the hook, and the purpose of the chorus is repetitive. It's like a mantra that it's keep on coming throughout the song as a reminder of what we're singing about, or what we're thinking about. The chorus remains the same throughout the song. The chorus does not change. And there is the hook in the chorus. Typically, the hook is within the chorus. This is this one word thought or the theme of the song that mentions over and over. Some songs also include the bridge and the coda, which is the end of the song. It is recommended for the therapist to study the client's preferred music, preferred songs, the form of their preferred song, the style, the genre, the arrangement, instrumentation, the lyric writing style, etc. Because the client's preferred songs may become a reference for you, the therapist, when guiding the client through a songwriting activity. Where to begin? Once you meet with the client through the assessment phase and later on, I would recommend for you to start with the theme. As I mentioned before, the theme is the anchor, meaning that throughout the songwriting activity, a therapist may remind the client of the theme so that the client will remain in focus to what it is they are trying to say and express. And the theme may include any one of these following ideas, issues, thoughts, or theme. It can be about love. It can be about courage. It can be about friendship. Theme might be trust, relationship, spirituality, relaxation, positive thinking, being proud of yourself, pride. Any one of these words or subjects can become a theme within the session. So let's talk about lyrics. There are many lyrics techniques, the techniques to develop the lyrics in a clinical setting. I'm going to mention only 2 of them right now. And the first one is brainstorming song lyrics. So At times it will be very clear to the client what it is that they want to write about or to whom they want to dedicate the song to. However, sometimes this may not be the case. During these times, you as the therapist should notice if your patient shares the same idea, issues, or topic. Let's say they keep on talking about a friend or their favorite animal or the need to go out to nature, or they talk about higher power, about spirituality. During these times, you may say to your client, I noticed you mentioned your favorite dog, for example. And you said how much you missed them. You say that you didn't see them for a while, and so forth. So then you can ask your client, what do you think about writing a song incorporating the thoughts you share with me about your dog? So then the animal becomes the theme. You establish the theme. And from that point, you may proceed to asking your clients open ended questions, which will lead to a discussion of thoughts and feelings about the theme. And then that will generate the song lyrics. Another technique for lyric writing would be like a mashup, 6 titles, 1 song. It's more constructive than brainstorming. So, for example, the client shares with you 6 songs that they are their favorite songs, preferred music. And you, as the therapist, may assist the client just to write down the title of that song. So here, for example, I mentioned the song Always on My Mind, Don't Stop Believing, I Just Called to Say I Love You. Those are titles of songs, Time After Time, Up Where We Belong, and Wind Beneath My Wings. So what do we do with these titles and how do we form them into a song? Through your guidance, you assist the client with rearranging those titles, adding words, dropping words, changing, the order of those lines in order to come with something that is more poetic, that has a message to it. And here is an example. So on the left column, you see the 6 song titles. And on the right column, you see a song that was created based on these titles. I'm going to read it out loud. I just called to say I love you. You are always on my mind. And I want to tell you, don't stop believing, because time after time, up where we belong, you will always be the wind beneath my wings. Later on, you can take that and assist the client with composing the song by introducing the melody. So one of the ways to create a melody will be simply ask the client, do you have a melody in mind? And so that will be less constructive. And if they do, that's great. Or if they have just an idea, you can assist them with develop that idea into a full melody, 16 bars or 18 bars. There is another way you may assist the client with developing a melody. It's by intonation. You, as the therapist, listen to the client's intonation when they are verbally or vocally express themselves. And if the client is verbal, ask them to read the song they created, the lyrics they created, and listen to their intonation. So, for example, if I would be the client and I would read the song, I would say, I just called to say I love you. You are always on my mind. And I want to tell you, don't stop believing. Then as the therapist, I would say, let me repeat the way you read the song. I just called to say I love you. You are always on my mind. And I want to tell you, don't stop believing. I think I hear a melody. I just called to say I love you. You are always on my mind. And I want to tell you, don't stop believing. You are always on my mind. And I want to tell, don't stop believing. Again. I just called to say I love you. You are always on my mind. And I want to tell you, don't stop believing. Okay. And then you go on and on and on. That's what I heard when obviously it was me. But if you be attentive to your client, you will hear a melody just by how they read the lyrics, just by their intonation, and you assist them with developing that into a full melody. Other ideas to create melodies will be just simply based on the 12 bars blues. Um, Another one will be improvised music, improvising around harmonic progression. You, as the therapist, may play a chord progression, and the client assists you with coming up with a melody based on their improvisation. And of course, there is another technique, pre-composed melodies. It's that when you take the lyrics that the client wrote and you are addressing it and or borrowing a melody from a published song, a well-known song, or the client's preferred song, and you just tailor them together. As a therapist, should have like 4 to 5 at least go-to chord progression that you feel most comfortable with. These are some of the most common used chord progression in pop music. So, in a clinical setting, therapists should provide the client with the opportunity to choose the chord progression. By doing so, we provide them with opportunity to exercise autonomy in times when they may feel restricted due to their diagnosis. They stay in bed or they don't get the chance to eat the food that they like, they feel restricted. When we are presenting chord progression, we may ask the client, do you want a happy or a sad sounding song? And then we can model or we can play 2 different chord progression. One is minor key and one is a major key, and let the client choose. Another way to go about chord progression in a clinical setting is you may ask your client, what sounds better? And you play 2 different chord progressions, and they choose the first one or the second one. I would recommend to keep it within 2 chord progressions at the beginning, not to overwhelm the client. So, and the third question you might ask your client in order to choose a chord progression may be, do you want the chords to be repetitive or non-repetitive? So in this case, you can play 1-4-1, 1-4-1, 1-4-1 throughout the verse, and 1-4-5, 1-4-5 throughout the chorus. It is all about the relationship. Through the interpersonal connection between the client, the therapist, and the music, a positive change may occur. I'm going to be in San Diego for the RAMTA conference, and if you have a question or you need more ideas, please don't hesitate to approach me and ask me. I'll be happy to share with you my thoughts, my ideas, and other resources. And here are the references. Thank you for listening.